Hey, what's up, Salt Lake City? Welcome to the I Am Salt Lake podcast. This is episode 32. I am your host, Chris Hollifield. I am your guide from episode to episode as I bring on individuals, professionals, musicians, people doing really cool stuff in the Salt Lake City area. So thank you very much for taking a few minutes and joining me. If you haven't found us on the internet yet, we are located at iamsaltlake.com. It's going to connect you with every previous episode of the podcast. You can download those directly from the website. You can listen to them directly from the website. We also have a link on there for iTunes as well as Stitcher Radio. So if you're not a fan of iTunes, be sure to check us out on Stitcher Radio. It's a really neat app you can download on your smartphone and listen to us directly from there. If you have a few minutes, we'd love for you to leave a review on iTunes as well as a review, and that way it kind of bumps us up in the gets us noticed by more people in the iTunes store. More listeners is always a great thing. On the website, iamsaltlake.com, we have a contact me button. It's got our email address as well as voicemail. Go ahead and contact us. Let us know what you think of the podcast, as well as if you would like to be a guest on the show. Love to bring you on. Love to showcase you a little bit. First things first, though, I just want to let you know that today's episode of the podcast was helped made possible by Audible.com. If you're not familiar with Audible.com, go ahead and check them out. audibletrial.com/IamSaltLake. Punch in that web address. You'll get a free audio book as well as a free month's trial. You could check them out. They have over 100,000 titles to choose from. You can listen to the audiobooks on your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Really great 30-day free trial as well as an audiobook for the I Am Salt Lake listeners. Special offer there from audible.com. So go ahead, try them out. It helps out the podcast as well as getting an audiobook, like I said. So anyways, today's episode of the podcast, I was able to sit down with a longtime friend of mine, Ryan Seaman. He is currently drumming for a band out of Los Angeles, California, Falling in Reverse. He is originally from Salt Lake City. So anyways, how I met him about 12 years ago, maybe, 11, 12, 13 years ago, I met him here. He was drumming in a band, the Teen Tragedies, here in Salt Lake City, Utah. Met him, really impressed with his drumming skills. Anyways, come to find out, how that small lake city is. Come to find out, we have mutual friends, and we've kept in contact throughout the years. We've hung out from time to time while he comes back and visits in Salt Lake City, his parents in Park City. Over this last holiday, over Christmas, I was able to spend some time with him, and I kind of asked him, I said, hey, would you be interested in coming on the podcast, sharing your story, kind of the Ryan Seaman story, how you got from banging on your first set of drums to where you're at today, playing drums with Falling in Reverse, kind of how he played in some different Salt Lake City bands, and that led him to where he's at today. So it's a really special episode of the podcast. My wife Suzanne was actually able to join us, so she's kind of part of the conversation for a little bit, as well as some other friends of Ryan Seaman was there. We recorded in his parents' house there in beautiful Park City, Utah. So there's, a little bit of recording differences there that people might not be familiar with previous episodes of the I Am Salt Lake podcast. So anyways, I'm going to quit rambling now. We're going to listen to the conversation that I had with Ryan Seaman. Go ahead. I'm going to put all the show notes at episode 32 with the contact information, his Facebook page, all that, so you can follow him on Twitter, kind of keep up with what he's doing, and go ahead and drop him a line. Say, hey, you know what? I heard you on the I Am Salt Lake podcast. I think you're a killer drummer. Anyways, thank you very much, Ryan Seaman, for sitting down with me, telling me your story, and the rest of the I Am Salt Lake podcast listeners. And we got Ryan Seaman here talking.
How's it going?
How you doing? And we got Suzanne, my beautiful wife, Suzanne. Oh. And then Dave Jones.
Dave Jones.
Like the pirate, he says.
Correct.
Like the pirate. So, we're going to sit here and we're going to find out a little bit about Ryan Seaman, kind of how he got to where he's at. Now, what band are you currently playing for right now?
I'm playing for a band called Falling in Reverse.
Falling
and they're on
Oh, sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
Go ahead.
Falling in Reverse, and they're on Epitaph Records. And this is, we'll get to that later, but this is my second band on Epitaph.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, and so I kind of want to back up a little bit, obviously, and start at the beginning. Okay? How old were you when you first started playing drums, banging around, playing drums?
Just like actually playing, or like bands, or
when you first picked up, when you first got your first drum set?
I think when I was like 4. I mean, it was like
let's go back.
I was like 4 years old. My dad bought me like a little like clunker set from like Toys R Us or something like that. But I think my first real kit was like, I was like 8, maybe 8 or 9, and then I had that kit for like years, all the way up until I was in like 9th grade. It was just like it was chrome, and it was a CB percussion drum kit. My dad just bought it for me. I just practice on that in the hardware. It was just all like real like cheap stuff, because like when you buy a present for your kid, you don't know if they're gonna like pursue that. You're not like a mind reader, so he might have thought this could have been just like a phase for me. But my dad was very heavily involved with music, and he grew me up on like the Beatles and like the Stones, and then I kind of made my own way and found bands like Green Day and The Offspring and any like kind of major label band at the time. And then so I was just playing drums, and then I moved here. I think I moved here in 96.
And when you say here,
Salt Lake City.
Salt Lake City, Park City.
Yep. So I moved here because my dad was a cinematographer. So in a lot of ways, I was kind of like an army brat. So I had to move around my entire life. It just depended on like what show he was working on at the time. So originally we moved here for the show Touched by an Angel, but I never went to the same school twice, like my whole life, until I got here in middle school. And then finally my mom was just like, this is the place. Pardon the expression.
This is the place.
This is the place.
And did you tell her that phrase was already taken?
No. I was trying to be clever, but obviously.
No, I know. Anyway, sorry.
So then my parents were like, all right, we're just gonna stay here. So Ryan can have a good education and everything. So I actually I think I started going to shows like in, I want to say 97. I went to a lot of shows with your now wife, Suzanne. Yeah, we met at just like local punk rock shows. I think it was just like...
And you were about what, maybe 14, 15, 16?
I was like 4, yeah, like 14.
14 when we met, but like I had been going to shows
longer, yeah.
Prior, and so had you, like we met eventually.
Yeah, I mean, it also honestly like it really probably started, just this whole like thing started when I went to... I don't even know. Like I started like finding out bands on my own, right? Yeah. And like I would go to like Hawaii like in the summer sometimes with my family, and then like I met some kids there that like listened to like Pennywise and the Suicide Machines, and I just remember buying all these albums and I mean like, man, this is like so cool. And then I heard about the Warped Tour, and that was like 97 in Salt Lake, and you had bands like Sick of It All and Social Distortion, Blink-182 was playing like the side stage. You had Real Big Fish. I'm trying to think of all the bands that you're Face to Face, the Boss Tones. Descendants were playing.
Essentially the first show that you ever went to?
That was probably like the first like really big, punk rock thing. But I mean, I've been going to concerts for years with my parents because they were, pretty big music buffs. But it wasn't anything like what I had seen. I'm like, wow, I really want this. And then from that, everything just stemmed like I would get like a flyer and be like, oh, what's this? Like I need to go check that out. Because I mean, like I feel like now with kids, it's not like what it used to be. Obviously,
it's all on Facebook.
Yeah, everything's on.
Reading the booklets and the CDs.
Yeah,
and like, oh, who does
yeah, but I mean, like you would go to a show back in the day, and it'd be these like handmade flyers that you put time into, and be like, I think the first show I met you at was and it ended up getting canceled, but I met these kids at Warped Tour. It was like Doug and Morgan and all these guys. They played. Yeah, they played in a local band called Sold Separately, and that was they're a pop punk band, right? And we just met at Warped Tour somehow, and then they're like, yo, you gotta come. We exchanged numbers or something, and they're like, you gotta come down to this show. It's this band called the High Fives. We show up to the show, and the High Fives canceled, and I was like, this is stupid. But what was cool about it is that it brought us all together. And that's how I met Suzanne, and that's how I met all those kids. From there, I was like, well, if you guys know any more like shows, this could be like really cool. I want to go. And a lot of these shows were at a place called Deviate, which I now heard burned down to the ground. Yeah. But I mean, I grew up going to shows there for like the longest time. Music was such a huge part, for me, just growing up, music was such like a huge part of my life. I was such a big dork in school up in Park City. So like all my friends that liked music, sorry, Dave's just shaking his head up and down, but all my friends I felt like were in Salt Lake, and they those are the people I had everything in common with, whereas Park City didn't really have that kind of culture. I decided my escape was to go to these like basement shows or these small punk rock deals at like, you know, places like Kilby Court or Deviate or some of the other venues like Bricks, which is now in the venue.
Bricks.
I don't even know if it goes by in the venue anymore. I mean, it changed it. No, I think it is still in the venue.
There used to be shows at like, I don't even know what the skate park was called, but
Real Ride.
Yep. A lot of them. I mean, before even Kilby, I feel like most of like the smaller ones were basement.
Right, and then with I'm totally veering away from what we were talking
no,
about.
No, you're
as far
fine.
As like
this
what
is
drums,
great.
It was what drums, but I'm going to get to that. But
yeah.
it just, what was really cool about that moment in time where I met Suzanne was like, we all got like flyers for these shows, and like half the time, like I don't even know if any of us had even heard the bands. We were just like, whatever, like we're just going to go. It's something to do. You know,
but that's what kids would do on the weekends.
Right. That's exactly. And that's what I would do. Like I'm 14 years old. I'm like, oh, this is so cool. And like, I'd beg my mom, like, please, can I go to this show? I have a girl who could drive me. She's like 18. Her name's Kim Riffle. Remember her? Yeah. I'm like, please let me go. And then like, she'd be like, all right. And then like, yeah. And so but I had a lot of friends that wanted to drive me to these shows. I was like the younger guy in like all, you know, in these like groups of people that were like taking me to shows, you know? So
yeah, I do remember you'd always show up like
I was like the
somebody
baby.
Random. It would be like a random different friend each time that
right, because I couldn't get because I couldn't get rides. And I'm like, you guys got to experience this. This is like the coolest thing. And so it just started, you know, then you'd see like the same faces and then like you'd be like, well, they've been going to these shows now for like 4 months. Maybe I should go say something to them. Hey, what's up? And then you make friends that way. And then pretty soon, like, there was just, like, this whole scene that was happening. I guess then what had happened, too, is, like, I played drums and I played bass and I played guitar, I played all these instruments. But I had a couple different bands in high school that I started in Park City. But it was separate from what was going on in Salt Lake. But I started a band with those kids up here because those were the only people I could find to, like, play. And it didn't matter if they were, like, below me musically or like above me musically. I just wanted to play with like people so badly. I just wanted to be like in a band. Finally, one night I think we were watching this band Good Riddance and this band the Teen Tragedies were opening up, and then that's what really started it all for me, like just playing like around town, because I was like, man, I really want to do like what that band's doing. And then like they kicked out their drummer
and then so your first band that you ever played in was a Teen Tragedies.
One of them. I mean, okay. Like I had like a lot of like little dinky bands here and there, like in.
Well, what was your first band then?
My first band.
Your first band ever?
We were called Condemnation, and I sang and I played. Yep. And it's okay. I sang and I played bass for them, but we covered like MXPX songs and like Descendant songs and anything that we thought was fast and cool. So I did that, and then but the thing I also feel like in Salt Lake was that there were so few musicians that everybody felt like they had to play together. For example, there was this band I really liked called the New Transit Direction, and they were like this like really, really great indie rock band. But then like one of the dudes in that band played like the Kill, you know, like Levi was in the Kill, and then somebody from that band like Dan Whitesides, who's now in the Used, like he was playing drums. He would also, you know, play in like New Transit and like Sandkicker and like all these different bands. But so I felt like one person just wasn't in one band. It was like the cool thing to do was just be in all these different projects so you could express how you felt about yourself. But that's what it all started for me.
You ever played any other instruments besides drums, or has it always been exclusively drums?
Drums and bass, yeah. So
but you played bass in some other bands.
Yeah, okay. Bass. Yeah, Condemnation. That was my first like real band. But it was funny because the drummer that was in my band at the time, I felt like we were just as good as each other, but he didn't play anything else. And I really wanted to be a drummer. I was like, well, I guess there's no one else around to play with, so I guess I'll just play bass.
You can do something else.
Yeah, and so then when the Teen Tragedies came along, what was really cool about them was they were all like way older than me at the time. Like they were 23, 24, right?
I think older.
Yeah, so.
Well, if you were like 16.
Yeah, I was like, yeah. I remember my mom was like driving me to band practices. Like we do this thing where they come to my house that you're in right now, and my room looks completely different. Like when I come home, it's not like my room anymore. When I come back here, it's like we used to have band practice in what was my room, like up here, and then we'd practice down at like Duke and Kelly's house. So you had
band practice here then?
Yeah.
And your parents were supportive of it?
Oh yeah, I had a ska band at one time here as well. Like there was like 7 people just in that room, horns and everything, and they just it drove them insane. If it wasn't for my parents, I don't know where I'd be, honestly. Just for like, because I felt like in high school it was like wherever the drum set was, that's where the
so did you take lessons for the drum, or all self-taught?
I stopped taking lessons right when I moved to Utah. Actually, I took probably like 3 years in lessons.
When you got into drumming, I mean, obviously, young kids, they have their heroes, their idols.
My drumming heroes.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, did you have any? Were there any drummers that you looked up to, or I mean, who were some? I mean, back then, I mean, that was so many years ago. Who were?
Honestly, like my three top, and I don't know why, and it still hasn't really changed. But I would say, I mean, and all these people, like you, when I'm about to name them, you're gonna be like, what? Like they're not like that amazing, but I feel like they contributed a lot to what they were doing at the time. But like Ringo Starr was like one of my favorite drummers, and like anybody could have played what he played, but I felt like he was like the perfect guy for it. Like they didn't have like metronomes, and they didn't have, you couldn't like if you made a mistake, it wasn't like you could just do it again. They kind of just did everything, right then and there. So I think Ringo Starr was really cool. Green Day, Trey Cool was like another favorite drummer of mine. He's the one that made me want to play really fast. Yuri from MXPX. He's just seriously. I remember this wasn't even that long ago, but I went to my Carrera studio up in Bremerton, and Yuri had like his drum set set up, and I was like, "Are these the sticks he uses?" And he's like, "Yeah." And so there were these like big monster clubs, like for just like huge, and then huge drums. And I didn't understand like the way he like sat on the drums. I'm like, how can anybody play like this? But it made me respect him that much more. But like Yuri was another big influence on me. Sorry, I'm freezing. I'm gonna put on my jacket.
No, you're all right.
It's always like 60 degrees in this house, and I never understand why.
Well, you're in Park City.
Yeah. Oh.
It's cold here.
Oh, it is. But okay.
So, playing in bands at a young age. I mean, you joined Teen. You were how old were you? When
I was like 16 years old. 15 or 16. Yeah.
What? And you said the rest of them were older.
They were like
So
like 23.
what? I mean, what was like one of the biggest challenging thing about being the young guy in a band?
Trying to connect with them, trying to be on like their level. Because I mean, like I look back now and it's like being a 24-year-old. Like I don't know how I would ever get along with like a 15-year-old and not lose my patience.
Yeah.
So like I mean, just looking back, and I completely understand. Like it was tough at the time, but I felt like they taught me a lot of things, and we all got along really well, like musically, but there was just other like there were things at the time. There was like some like weird turmoil, and I think like Kelly and Duke dated like back then too. So not only was I like the little brother of the band, but they were like in a relationship, So like that's tough on like a 15-year-old who doesn't who didn't have like that many.
And did they? I mean, they probably wanted to play bar shows too, right?
Yeah. We did that. Like, okay. I mean, we played everywhere. But what the rule was for me was I'd have to go into the bar, set up, play, and then just leave. Like we played like Bert's Tiki Lounge, and like there was this place next to the Zephyr, and it was open for a little bit. But I'm trying to remember the name of that place.
Oh, I think what was the name of that place? It started with an E.
I think so. Yeah, and we played a show with this band called Hammer Gun, and they were like super fucking heavy, and they were really good. But I remember that band too. I was like, wow. And the thing I love about Salt Lake and the thing I hate about it too is that like I feel like there's so many good musicians that like nobody will ever know about, because like there's a lot of Salt Lake people who just want to stay here because they love it so much, and I agree. But I feel like for me there's more of a world out there besides just what's here.
So do you keep up still with many of the Salt Lake musicians, or are you kind of being in LA, you're kind of out of it?
I keep up with certain people. There's this band from here called Chelsea Grin, and they're like, I don't even know how to describe it. They're just metal. There's nothing melodic about them. There's just like they're just screamy, like crazy. But they tour, and like they have a big fan base like around America and stuff. And like it's just something we have in common as far as like we just tour a lot. So like we keep in touch. Like you meet somebody on the road and you want to be friends with them, and you experience like this time, and you want to be able to have some sort of a connection. That to me is also what music is about. Just coming from such a place where there's a lot of actually, I shouldn't even say this, but there's not a lot of diversity here. I feel like there's.
Say it. I mean, there's a lot of truth, I think, behind that, though. And without an insulting way, really.
Right. It's just like there's just so many. I mean, there's a lot of kids that want to go to a lot of like shows, and there's a lot of kids who want to stay out of trouble. But I feel like, without disrespecting anybody, but I feel like the Mormons don't really want to have like live venues if they think that it's like causing trouble to the community. And that was another big struggle about like going to shows growing up, is because like venues would just shut down like left and right, and so it'd be like, man, that was a really cool place to go to shows.
You'd book a show and hope it made it.
Yeah, and then you're like, man, maybe we can go play this place or this place. Like I've played every little like crap hole to like great venue around here. Like I've played USANA Amphitheater to like Urban. Like I've done it all here, and it's been like an amazing.
What band
experience.
did you play USANA with?
This band, the Brobecks.
Okay.
And now the singer Dallin Weeks, he is playing bass for Panic at the Disco.
Okay.
And so there's a very short time.
Yeah, and that kind of jumped ahead a little bit. There,
That's okay. We did the big ass show in 2008.
Okay.
So.
That was at USANA?
Yeah. We were the very first band, the opener, and like I don't even know how many people it holds, but I swear we probably played for like 5,000 at least.
It holds a lot of people.
Yeah, but I mean, like it's got to hold like a lot more. It's like a mini arena, kind of, But,
so how old were you when you stopped playing for Teen Tragedies then?
I was 18, and I'll never forget this. I did a tour with them, and it was like a self-booked tour. Because that was the other cool thing is like growing up here, being in Park City, they let the schools out in 2002 for the Olympics, like up here, because it was just too much of a.
They were just like, okay, no school this year, right? They were just like, no school.
Yeah. It was just all February. So then, like, my band took the advantage, and they're like, oh, great, like, Ryan isn't going to school right now. Like, we'll just book a tour around his schedule, And that was the other cool thing, too, is, like, we were all in together, but I think what ended up failing at the end was just, like, the connection in age. Because, I mean, like, when you're, like, if you're, like, 24 and you're connecting with somebody who's, like, 34, it's not really that much of a difference. But if it's, like, 16 to 24, that's huge. That's a huge gap, Yeah. They booked their touring. Oh, this is my friend Matt. Hey, buddy.
Matt, you're just in time to join the podcast.
Oh, yes, you are. I have to tell you a little story about. How you doing, bud? I have to tell you a story about Matt real quick. He has this amazing thing that he does. He runs a company called Obsessed Artists, and they're having a.
Is that here in Salt Lake?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is in Salt Lake.
Well, here we go. A little plug for you.
Yeah, right. and I think we have the same jacket. What the hell? Is that from Urban?
Yep.
So, Matt has a gallery, and he's an artist, like an actual painting artist, and he's gonna have a show on January 11th at the
Metro.
The Metro.
Co-sponsored with Skull Candy. We got all these 6 street artists and tattoo artists to redesign Skull Candy headphones, and then Das Racist is performing. Who's really sick. Like,
yeah,
there's hip-hop group.
Super cool band from New York, I think, right?
Right on.
Yeah,
I saw him once.
Cheeks, really artsy. It's gonna be a really cool event.
So the Metro on the 11th of January.
Yeah.
What day of the week is that?
It's on a Friday.
Friday night. Okay, excellent.
Yeah. So our whole thing is that we like to create. Eventually I want to do my own like festivals, but right now we're starting with events where it's kind of like a whole art experience. Not only just music where it's entertaining the ears, but also a visual experience as well. So our events have been getting better and getting more sponsors and stuff.
Right on. Well, maybe I'll have to get you on the podcast sometime and talk about it.
Kind
of. You know what I mean? And here we go. That's great. So
yeah, he came in at a perfect time. So to drop that. So
where were we at? We were talking. Oh, the Tragedies. You were talking about tour.
So we toured in February. Yeah, we toured in February 2002, and we were basically the Teen Tragedies were like this band whenever like a big punk band would come to Salt Lake, we were just like the band that got to like open up for them. Our band worked really hard. Like we'd flyer shows, and we all knew the promoters, and people knew us, and they liked our band. So we were able to get on these shows that needed an opener. With that being said, there is this band that I met who was playing with us. Well, we were opening up for them, but there's this band called the Eyeliners. They're all girls, and I just remember playing at Kilby Court. I loved going to the shows there, so it was a huge part of my life. But playing at Kilby Court, I remember the package. It was the Teen Tragedies, us, and the Eyeliners, and then this band Tsunami Bomb. And we all played, and I'll never forget, I was playing the drums. Yeah. And they were all just staring at me, all the Eyeliners. I was kind of nervous because there's like these they're attractive, just older women. They're looking at me playing drums. I'm like, man, like I really gotta like kick asses right now. I don't know what I have to do, but we were just this fast band. And then so they're like, hey, like keep in touch. I'm like, all right. And then I hit them up on email, and I was like, hey, like my band's coming through in February to the launch pad in New Mexico. And so I mean, when we went out on tour, like there were shows that were like canceled or like. We just wouldn't make like enough to like get to the next town. Yeah, we would literally play like any little thing. We toured like once before that, like the summer prior to the Olympics, We were just going through things that like bands now like won't experience. Like you show up to a show, like you book your own tour. You go to a show and then like you find out that the show was mistakenly. You find out that the show was actually supposed to be like the night before, and you're like, what? No, we booked it for this night, or like, oh, sorry, we can't pay you tonight, or oh, this venue got shut down, and then you show up to the town and nobody tells you, or and so these are things that like a lot of these like up and coming bands will never.
These were days before iPhones.
Yeah.
And Androids.
Oh yeah, you got lost. You got on a payphone.
Yeah.
You had to use an atlas. You had to use, and these are things that like some of these little shit bands won't ever get to like experience.
Yeah. I mean, you'd find venues for maximum rock and roll and book your own fucking life.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. Yeah. So that's how I spent my greater teenage years, was just trying to connect with other bands. Like you go play a show in like Arizona or something, right? And then like you try to talk to that band because then they might be able to get you a show the next time you go through, and then you might be able to give them a show if they want to come to your town. That's actually how I met somebody. I'll get into this in a little bit, but remind me to come back to it. Yeah, so we went on this tour, and then in New Mexico, we played for like, 15 people. And then the Eyeliners were one of those 15. They came out to the show. They saw the show. I worked really hard. We played. We packed up. I was like, hey, thanks for coming. Towards the end of the tour, like we all got in like a fight, like the Teen Tragedies. And I was just like, you know what, maybe I'm not cut out for this road stuff, Like I can't get along with these people, And I at that point, like I was a senior in high school. And we had the whole month off, and that's why I got the tour. And I was thinking, man, maybe I'll just go to school. I'll go to the U of U and try really hard. And so I remember I got off that tour. I'm like, sorry guys, like I quit. Like I'm not happy. I can't be in a touring band. And so then I emailed the Eyeliners, and I was like, thanks so much for coming out. I don't know what I'm going to do with my life, but I don't think this is for me. Thanks anyway.
So you're telling them this in New Mexico?
Well, no, I told them this after I got the tour. Okay, I'm emailing them. This email was just starting to be like a thing, And so I emailed them, and then she emailed me like the girl Jell, guitar player, and she emailed me back. She was like, "Hey, just want to let you know, like we do this thing where we have like fill-in drummers come. We thought you were like really good, and we just want to see if maybe you wanted to like try out for us, and maybe do like a tour or something." And at that point, I'm like, what? Like, this is insane. Like, they're so good. Like, I used to love watching them, When they come through, we'd always hang out. And so they were like, all right, learn our records and come down to New Mexico and try out. So I had, like, I don't know, a couple weeks to learn their stuff. And then I went down. I tried out for the band. We opened up for this girl, Lisa Loeb. She's like a folky guitar player. Then the Eyeliners were like, all right, well, we're going to do Warped Tour this summer. Like, do you want to come with us? And I'm like, wait, what?
Wait, they offered you the same night? Or
after the show. They're like, all right, like, you're in if you want it. And they knew I learned all the songs. Like, they knew I could play and everything. So they just wanted to see if it was going to, like, work out. So, like, we had, like, a rehearsal before the show. And they're like, cool. And then we went and played this, like, it was, like, at a university. So it was kind of small, but it was just, like, college shows are just weird anyway. I don't care, like, what size band you are. It's just, like, it's just weird all around. It's not, like, your normal thing. Like bands will get paid like a lot of money to go play these like college shows for like nobody because they have to get rid of like the money that's within their like arts program or something. So we got to open up the show. Yeah, the girls took me out to this restaurant. We're like, we want you to come on the whole Warped Tour. Like, we're sharing a bus with Flogging Molly. And I was like, wow, this is like a dream come true for me. And like when I saw like the bands around, I'm like, man, these are all the bands that I grew up like watching and like loving. Man, this is gonna be like summer camp. This is so cool, And so then like I went out that summer with the girls, and I had the time of my life, and it was great. And it was just like an escape. And at that point, when I knew I was going to be in the band, that was like April, I just thought like, okay, I guess I'm not going to go to college. Like I'm choosing Warped Tour over my education. So I just, towards the end of my schooling, I just kind of like didn't really care anymore, So I was just trying to like float by and just get these songs real tight for Warped Tour that summer.
So how long did you play with the Eyeliners in for?
I played with them for 6 months because they made it very clear to me that they were going to get their... Because like basically how it arranged was the Eyeliners were like 3 girls, and the girl would play on the records, but she didn't want to play drums and sing at the same time anymore.
I got you.
So they would get their friends to come in and play drums. So whether that be me or like one of their other buddies, I don't know. I got to do 2 back-to-back tours with them though. So nice. I thought Warped Tour was going to be it. I was just like, this is like time of my life. Made some friends on the road, And
approximately how old were you?
I was 18.
18 at this time. Okay.
Yeah, so I was pretty close to be. I was like one of like the older kids like in my grade, but then like going to shows, I was like one of the younger kids, in like the whatever you'd call it, like the scene, if there was a scene. I mean, I know it sounds so funny to say.
No,
but
it's not calling
a community, whatever. So when I was 19, I was feeling kind of lost at this point. I'm like, wow, I just gave up going to school. So I was 19 years old, and I remember I came back to Utah. I'm like, well, I guess I'll go to I was at home for like 6 months. I'm like, I guess I'll just go to a bunch of shows and just, hang out. I went to go see this band called Fairview play, and they were out with a band called Ultimate Fake Book, who I thought was awesome. They kind of sounded like Weezer a little bit. They're like a 3-piece.
I was gonna say they sound familiar.
Yeah,
right?
they're super awesome. They're just like an indie rock band. They're up there with like Juliana Theory or like The Stereo. Went to go check them out, and I just was like, hey man, I was in this band, the Eyeliners, blah blah. And I was just like, I was a stupid kid, but they liked me, and we got to talking and everything. And then I was like, maybe I should go out to LA and go to like a music school, kind of be out there and just see what happens. Like I met a bunch of people on Warped Tour that year, so I decided to pack up my car, and I had like my clothes, my dishes, my drum set, and I decided I was gonna make the trip out to LA. So I did that, got like an apartment with like, with my parents' help for school.
But you didn't know anybody when you went out there, right?
Absolutely not. Nope. Okay. I mean, like I knew people, but like I didn't know if like how close I was going to be to them. But I didn't have like any friends out there that I could just like immediately go to if I was in trouble. So in the midst of like packing and being like, okay, I'm going to a music school, Fairview hit me up and they're like, hey man, like our drummer is about to leave the band. Do you want to join, or do you want to try out, and if this works, whatever. So I hadn't even like moved into like the apartment yet for schooling, and I tried out and I already made it, and I'm like, okay, this is crazy. And like I was going to school up in Pasadena, and then the guys were all in Orange County, and if like anything about California, like the traffic is just like it's just bad all the time everywhere. So like what would normally take 45 minutes would take like 2 hours. So I sat in traffic all the time to go down to Orange County for rehearsals, with Fairview. And they were a band on this label called the Militia Group. So they had bands like Cartel and Rufio, and I think those were their biggest ones. So then I was in that band, and they were in like a weird period where like they weren't sure what they wanted to do musically. So I basically was like, okay, well this will give me enough time to like go to school for a little bit. And I thought I was going to go for like the year, but I ended up going for 3 months, and then I decided that it wasn't working out for me. So like, why waste more money if it wasn't meant to be? So I went to that school, and then I started playing around with Fairview, and then I was like, okay, I need to go get like a job out here. So then I worked at like a film vault in Hollywood, and then, but being a kid, it's like you take things for granted, and like it was actually like a really good job, but like I didn't care about it. I just wanted to play music, and I wanted to be in a band, and I wanted that to be my career. I would spend time on like a computer, like printing out flyers or like trying to email booking agents like from my job. Like I was an idiot, like doing that during the daytime when like I should have been working hard. So I did stuff like that, and then I got laid off probably like 9 months after that. But that band didn't really tour. And
do you wonder why you were laid off?
No, so I mean I had a lot of jobs when I moved out to California because our band just wasn't doing anything, and like the goal for me was to be able to pay rent, pay for like a practice space, put gas in my car, and just do the band. Like I didn't have like a girlfriend or anything. I just was like, from like the age of like 19, like for basically 2.5 years, it was just like just grinding. And then there was this one day where we played this venue called the Troubadour. It's out in LA. It's really famous. We played out there, and then this guy comes up to all of us and was like, hey man, just want to let you know I think your band's really good. I'm a producer. I really want you guys to come check out my studio. And we're like, oh, well, what have you done? And he's like, oh, I did this band called Guns N' Roses. And we were just like, wait, what? And so this guy, Mike Klink, was wanting to basically take our band under his wing. And so we were like, okay, like we're working towards something. We were just about to get out of our deal with Militia. If it was just like a 1 record thing, but we ended up going with Mike Klink and just trying to like write songs. We're writing songs at this like really, really, really great studio. And we were there for like 6 months, but I was working a job from like 5 in the morning until 1 in the afternoon, and then I would go rehearse from like 2 to 11 at night. Wow. And this was all, and like my job and that was in Hollywood, but I was like, then I like moved in like 6 different places at once, like I couldn't like keep roommates for the life of me. It was just a really bad time in my life. So just trying to like hold it all together. I'm like, man, what am I even doing here? And the band I was playing with, like they're already like established, and their parents like were able to, keep them afloat and everything and help them out. But I was just like, man, like I got to make ends meet. Like, what am I doing out here? Yeah. So I was playing with this band Fairview for a while. And then we figured out that this guy, Mike, wanted like 40% of everything that like we had been working towards. So he's like, we were just like about ready to record. And he's like, all right, man, like this is cool, but you guys got to sign this real quick. And we're like, what is this? So we had like we got a lawyer to like look at everything, and it just wasn't in our best interest at all. And everybody was like, "This is like a terrible thing." Because
he wanted 40% of everything you did.
Yeah, he's like, free studio time, man, but like touring everything like 40%, and we're like, what the fuck, you know? So we didn't even know like how to react. So we're like, well, we really want to work with this guy, and we like him, so maybe we can negotiate with him somehow. So we spent like 3 months trying to do that, and it just came to like a standstill, doing this grind of working 5 a.m. till 1. And so after a while, I was starting to like kind of lose motivation, you know. I'm like, what am I doing here? Like, this is insane. And then I would still fit in like times like, again, go to shows, and like I would see my friends that I made like from like Warped Tour like earlier that summer, and we'd hang out, and then they'd introduce me to people, and then those people would introduce me to people, and then like it just be I felt like I was in like a community again. But the thing that isn't cool about LA is that I don't feel like there's like an actual like community. If there is, I don't know about it. With
you haven't been introduced.
Yeah, I have been introduced. But like with like Salt Lake, it's like, you know, the same people are gonna go to like all those shows. It's just like a meeting point. It's where people get together, and like they'd be like, oh, this band's coming to town, cool, I'm totally going, because it's like a night out with my friends. It's a night out with like a band, and we could all just like catch up,
just hang out and have fun together. It's
yep.
not even so
sing your band's favorite songs, and then it, you know, starts at 7, done by 11.
Yeah,
you know, and like that was. And that's basically it. And
do you remember those times at Kilby Court though, like that?
Absolutely.
You remember? I mean, they're not. I actually went to a Kilby Court show about a month ago, and it wasn't like that. At least,
why?
Well, maybe because I didn't really know anybody there.
Who did you go see?
Who did I go see? Maybe it was more than a month ago. They were Daisy and the Moonshines.
Okay.
You ever heard of them?
Never heard of them.
You probably heard of them. Maybe not. Okay. Well, anyways.
That's fine. I mean, like, I felt like at the time Suzanne and I knew pretty much like every local band, every like
for sure.
everything. We probably had little calendars like what shows were we gonna go to.
Yeah.
Just being, you know,
saving up my lunch money.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, no, you would hang out at Kilby, and again, I mean, it goes back to I didn't know anybody there, and so maybe it was different. I'm also older, you know, you're younger, and it was like I just wanted to go to a bar show so I can get alcohol.
Yeah, well, for you guys. I mean, like
for you guys.
Yeah, I just when I grew up, I mean, like
I
didn't.
But anyways, we kind of distracted from the story.
No,
there,
that's fine.
So no.
What was I talking about?
You were talking about L.A., Fairview. You were going to sign this contract.
So then we get the standstill, and then we're like, you know what, this isn't going to work out. Yeah. So then I decided to keep trucking on like with Fairview, and we decided we were going to change our name, and then we changed it to Kiev. That was the name of the band. I stuck by our singer Bobby for like a while, and it just turned out, and like nothing against him at all, like we're super cool, like we're still really close and everything, but I felt like he's the kind of person that I don't want to say he's like afraid of success, but he's like, when he thinks he's done something, he thinks he could do it like better, so he's never like, in my eyes, it's like he's never, back then at least, like he wasn't like satisfied, you know? So like I'd be like this guy, it's like, man, I'm like really working hard, and nobody was giving me like a handout or anything, you know? Yeah. But like I'd be like, yo man, like what are we really doing here? Like I'm just working this like dead end job, and we're in like year number like 3 here, you know what I mean? And I'm starting to like
year number 3 with the band.
Yeah, and I'm starting to get like really antsy, but I was doing like the, you know, grind of like working like a really crappy job into like band practices, and we were just always having to rehearse all the time, you know. It was just like we're trying to be like the next like Radiohead or something without even like knowing it, but we were just like collapsed in this like environment where I just felt like it was just this vicious cycle that wasn't going anywhere, you know. So then I was like, man, maybe I signed up for like the wrong project, you know. But it really helped me grow being out there, because like in that time frame of like being in that band, I met like so many people though, literally just going out. And I remember I was like venting to like one of my friends. I'm like, man, I don't know what's gonna happen with this band. And I felt like I did like a lot, you know, like for them. Like for example, right when we decided we weren't gonna go with this like Mike guy anymore, we decided that we were gonna make this EP completely on our own. So we were like, yo, let's just make this EP, and then we'll figure out what to do with it. So we made this EP, and I was like, yeah, we're getting everything moving, everything's great, like we're gonna start playing shows again, blah blah. But he was just like not thinking the way I was thinking, like which is fine, you know. But for him, it was like, we're gonna get like this big like $1 million deal, and like our songs are gonna be good enough to where like we don't have to like play any shows, like someone's just gonna like come to us, you know. Where I come from the ethic of like you got to work hard to like get to where you need to go, like songs. And when these things got made, when the songs got made, I remember we made these little like cutout cardboard things, so we just put our discs in and we like sewed them up, and I would go to shows, and I would just like talk to like friends of mine, like, hey, like check out our band. just hand the CDs out, check out our band. And then pretty soon, like, MySpace became like a thing, you know, where like people at record labels started checking out bands. So they started checking out our band, this band Kiev, and they're just like, yo, we want you to come play for us at like this like rehearsal area. And so we did this for like 2 months. Like we were getting flown to New York, like you name it, like Wind Up, Atlantic, Elektra, Immortal, like all these labels were just coming in. They're like, we were like, well, how'd you get our stuff? They're like, oh, like we got the CD from like so-and-so. So I'm thinking like, oh man, like I handed out like CDs and these people actually listened to it and they liked it so much that they told like their other friends. So I felt like I was making progress, you know? And then it turned out that like my singer at the time wasn't like satisfied yet though. He was just like, no, I could do so much better. I don't want to show these songs to people anymore. And it almost felt like I was like ruining it for him or something. Like, he wasn't ready to like be signed and be like in a band, and like that's what I came to LA to do, you know? Like I was, because I enjoyed my time so much out on the road, like in Warped Tour. I was like, I want that like again. I need that like that, I need that high. So it's like it's like I saw the light and then it got taken away from me. So I'm like, man, I saw like Fairview touring a lot, so I'm like, maybe these people are like have the same interests as me. But it turned out that like we didn't have like that much in common at all. It's just that like we just wrote like cool songs together. So then there were these managers that managed them at the time, and then Bobby and the rest of the band fired them like before I really came along. And I kind of talked to them. I'd see them at shows, and then I kind of told them my frustrations, and they saw like where I was coming from, and they felt like kind of the same way. And so they were like, yo, there's this band that I think we're going to get them signed to Epitaph. They've only played like a couple shows. Like, you should check them out. And that was this band, I Am Ghost. And so
great band, by the way.
Oh, thanks, man. But I was in that band for 2.5 years, but I ended up like trying out for them. And I remember like I'm a very like loyal person. I always see things until I just can't see them through anymore. And so I just remember telling their management, I was like, I don't know if I could do this. Like, maybe, you know, maybe this is, you know, I don't know if this is for me. Like, thank you though. And they just kept coming back. They're like, Brian, you'd be perfect for this band. I'm like, I don't know, man. Thank you. You know, maybe. And so then finally in my head, I'm like, well, I moved out here to like play, you know, and I want to tour again, and there's all these things that like achieve for myself. And so I felt like I was like, I need to be a little selfish for a minute and just try to like do things for me, because like they're gonna find another drummer. But it just got to a point where we were playing for all these labels, like Kiev. We're playing for all these labels, and just nothing happened, you know? Like, and he would somehow like ruin it for us. And I remember we got in a fight like in front of like Drive-Thru Records. It was like stupid, but we got in a fight in front of like the owner of Drive-Thru Records, like out in the parking lot of like of this like bar. At that point, that was like my breaking point. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I'm not happy. I tried out for I Am Ghost. I made it. And then I feel like that was the beginning of like my real music career, you know? Just being in that band, and like ever since.
And approximately how old were you? I'm kind of trying to follow a timeline.
I was 21. Because I moved to LA when I was 19.
Okay,
so
yeah. I
was almost 22 when I joined I Am Ghost. So it was the first time I like got to like, you know, be a part of a band like that, like got signed. And so I guess like their old drummer was having problems. Like he would skip like verses and choruses. Like, this is what I just heard. Like, I don't know if it's true, you know, but he would skip like verses and choruses like live, like in their song, and then they'd be like, "Whoa, like what?" Yeah, and so like it'd be just like a train wreck. So I guess he did it at practice like again, and then there was like, he's not like the guy, and so I came in and they knew I had like some experience, and those guys had like never toured at all, but they worked really hard too. Like, they would go to like a venue, Chain Reaction, and hand out like a bunch of CDs, like just free. Like, they would like literally burn like 4,000 CDs, you know, iBooks at the time.
Is that kind of how they got signed to Epitaph so quickly then? I mean, just by being
word of mouth.
I mean, obviously not touring, nothing.
Yep, word of mouth. I mean, they had played
Epitaph.
like, after my first show with them is when we got signed, which is insane. But like, they did a lot of legwork like on the internet side, but I felt like they worked for it though. Like, they went out to the shows, they met the people, they handed out the flyers. They're like, yo, like, check this out, you know, and that's when MySpace was like, again, everybody was like going there. The singer of that band, who we don't get along at all, but he had grown up in like a similar situation where like I was like, he was just like a super hard worker though. With like he had toured before with like old bands, and when he was getting the band started, he was like 28, and like the rest of us were like really, really young. Like, my guitar player was like 18 at the time. I was like in the middle age group, but then and then we had a violin player who's the same age as me. was a girl. And then Brian, our bass player, was like a couple years younger than me.
You wouldn't think that would be that tough, though. I mean,
no, but it's just funny because like Steve, it's like when you're, for me, I think like, okay, if I'm 28 years old and I'm trying to start a band from like absolute like zero, like scratch, and I hadn't had like a real music project take off, like some people would find that like discouraging, you know? And so, but what I respected about him was that he knew how to create a buzz and he knew how to grab attention to people. So like, that's how, I honestly believe that's how the band got signed, other than like the songs that were like already recorded. I did my fair share of touring with them, and that's when I became like a professional musician. Like I didn't have to work another job anymore, you know? I would do like little things here and there, but it was only because like I'm very similar to my dad, where like if there's nothing happening, like I just drive myself insane. Like what am I gonna do? You know, I just can't sit here and do nothing. I need to do something. I need to contribute somehow. It's really hard for me to like sit still and just like watch the world go around and feel like I'm not making a difference while it's like, well, sometimes like if I got off like a, 3-month tour or whatever, I would just like, I couldn't just like hang out for like, a couple weeks. I'd have to like, I'd want to do something, So that's what happened with that band. But then like my career just started like,
it just kind of started blossoming.
Yeah, it started blossoming. Like, I mean, I did a lot of really cool things. Like with I Am Good. Like I got to go overseas with them. Like we toured with the Bronx and Biffy Clyro overseas on this thing called the Kerrang Tour. And that was a huge highlight of my life. I felt like Salt Lake started my career though.
So
as you heard in that.
Yeah. So from I Am Ghost though, where did you go from there? Then I'm kind of trying to lead up to where you're at now.
Well, after I Am Ghost, I decided that I wasn't getting along with the singer. It was, again, it's like you got to follow your heart. But I'd stuck with him through like all the crap. Our important assets left the band, like our violin player and our bass player, who were married and they sang really well. Like they left the band, and we were like, well, should we get a violin player? Like, should we get another, like a girl? What do we do? And then like our management at the time, like I shouldn't have even listened to them, but they were just like, oh, nobody's gonna even notice if the violin player is like gone. And I'm thinking like, what? Like who says that? So I mean, I Am Ghost is a whole nother story, because within itself, like that was just like a whole shit show, And I'm sure that people who know me know that story already. So like I won't even waste anybody's time.
No, and that's fine.
But like, but then there became like a time in my life where I'm just like, this isn't working for me anymore. And so then I knew this guy, Jeffree Star, who we're still like really, really close friends, and he knew you, and But I remember how I met Jeffree originally. Kiev was we were recording at this place called West Beach, and then like I was super MySpace like all the time. I was just always on that site, because again, it was just like a way for me to like connect with people and see like what people were doing.
That was the site back then.
It was, man. I feel like that website like changed my life.
There's a new MySpace.
I know, and I haven't gotten invited to it. I need to get invited to it. You want to invite me to it?
I got my invite the other night.
Who invited you?
MySpace did. They
invited you.
You have to put your email on there.
Well, I didn't get the invite yet. Everybody keeps telling me they're going to send. I'm just too lazy to go.
I don't think you can send invites. I just think you have to get invited by MySpace.
Oh, like there's this dude I know.
fucking want one.
I kind of want one.
No, it seriously is awesome. I mean, it's seriously, obviously Facebook is where they're. I mean, we're going to get on this tangent, right? No, but seriously, I mean, the layout of it is very impressive. I mean, Justin Timberlake has been busy.
Yeah, absolutely. Genius.
Well, no, he bought MySpace. Justin,
isn't that ironic though? Like the whole movie, like he was in like the whole Facebook movie, and then he bought MySpace. Like that's so funny though.
But supposedly they're keeping it to the musicians. You can put your music on there. Yeah. You can listen to music while you're browsing. And
I thought it was a great website to find music. Like some of my favorite bands I found off of there. Like I didn't even know about them.
So after I Am Ghost, what did you go?
I went to Jeffree. Well,
no, you're fine. You're fine. We can kind of jump it.
It's fine. I was telling you about MySpace, but here's how I met Jeffree.
Okay.
So I was on MySpace one day, and I met this girl Taylor. And
Taylor Swift?
No. This girl, her name is Taylor. So we met on MySpace, and then like, I don't know, we went out like on a few dates or whatever. And I remember I was like, well, I got to record till this time. And she's like, well, hey, like you're recording right by this place where all my friends are going. Like, let's go out. And this is like a monumental like 2.5 weeks of my life. I was like, all right. And I was like 20 years old. And I was like, well, how are we going to get in? Like, I can't drink. Like, what? She's like, don't worry about it. We got this, And so she picked me up from the studio, and then we went over to Sonny Moore. We went over to Sonny Moore's house now. He is now the DJ they call Skrillex.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So And I knew Sonny, and actually what's really funny about him too, about Sonny, is I came home for like vacation, like home. When I say home, I mean Utah, but I came home for vacation, and my friend's band at the time, they're called Day 2, and they're from Salt Lake.
Day 2, yeah.
They were headlining a show at Kilby Court. It was like a CD release or something, and there's this band called From First to Last, and they were, I'm sorry I'm going on so many tangents, but this will all make sense.
You're fine.
So, there was this band called From First to Last, and there was they were playing the show, and like when I was a kid, like I just didn't give a shit. Like I went in any like mosh pit, I went like crowd surfing, I'd like walk on people's head. Like Suzanne's here to vouch for me, but like you look at me now, if you know me now, you'd be like, what, dude? No, Ryan's not like that. But I've calmed down quite a bit, and like because I realize I'm like, man, like if my hands are in trouble, I'm out of a job, So that's why I don't do that monkey business anymore. But yeah, I used to be like the little kid that would just like go in the pit and like maybe I'd hit somebody. I'd drop my pants on stage, dive off, do a front flip. I don't know, anything. I would just because I'd see my friends. I
think we were all a lot more crazy when we were kids,
absolutely.
though,
But nobody who would listen to this would ever think that of me at all. I did all that stuff, but anyway, I think I did something crazy at like a Day 2 show, and like From First to Last was opening, and then that Sonny guy comes up to me. He's like, "What's up, man? Like, you seem like you're cool or whatever." And then we just started talking. I'm like, "Well, I actually live in LA." He's like, "Really?" He's like, "Me too." And he was like a lot younger than me, He was like 16, and I was 20. So he's like, "I'm gonna be back there soon. We should hang out." I was like, "All right, cool." So then this girl Taylor takes me over to his house. We get in the car. We go to this party thing. It was at this place called the Avalon. I was like,
in Salt Lake?
No, in California. There's two Avalons. Sorry, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no, because I was following.
I'm the worst. Okay. I'm the worst at telling stories sometimes. But So my friend Taylor, who I met on MySpace, picks me up. We go to Sonny's house. Pick Sonny up. Go to this place, the Avalon. I'm like, there's no way in hell we're getting in. And she's like, "No, we got this." And I only met Taylor a handful of times, but then turned out she was friends with Kelly Osbourne, right? And so I was like, whoa, like this is weird, So we all went in Kelly's like entourage. We went into this place, and then I started talking to Kelly for a little bit, and then we were friends for a while. But then I saw Jeffree, right? I saw Jeffree Star. He had this blonde mohawk, blue lipstick, He looked scary as hell. And I was like, man, that dude can fucking do some damage. He can knock somebody out with his like 6-inch, stiletto, or whatever the fuck he was wearing. So I was just like kind of intimidated, but then we were like talking, and he turned out to be like the nicest person in the world. And I just thought he was so fucking funny. And then then I like started doing research on him on MySpace. I'm like, wow, this guy's got like 100,000 friends, or like, and then it just like kept going up and up and up and up and up. And then he became this thing. And so we had been friends, and then he would like come to like some of our shows and everything. And so he was like MySpace famous,
Yeah.
So then I remember when I left I Am Ghost, he was like, "Yo, I'm putting together like a band to go to the UK. Like, would you want to play drums for me?" And I was like, "Wow,
of course."
Sure. I'm like, Jeffree's really cool. He's a nice guy. I wouldn't mind going overseas again with him, and we just really hit it off. But that's how I knew him. I knew him for like 4 years by that point. So I got to play for him that entire year, but then I was also able to do other musical interests that I wanted to do as well. He didn't care. As long as like I was like touring with him, he was like, "You can go play for anybody, like this is like my band, do whatever you want, just come back, when the tours are set." So I spent that entire year being like a hired drummer. Like I play like gigs around LA with like artists that like weren't that well known or whatever. And then like I played with Jeffree. And then I met this kid, Dallin, who's from Salt Lake, the Brobecks.
Yeah.
And so I played with him for like about like 6 months, but then things got complicated because when I went out with Jeffree again, those guys just wanted to keep playing around in LA. And it was like there's some kind of not miscommunication, but there's some sort of like a time restraint where it was like they wanted to play these shows, but I was on the road and I was like, "Sorry guys, like I got to do this. This is like my bread and butter, And that's at that point, that's when I knew like, wow, like I'm a professional musician. Like this is what I have to do. Because at this point I already had like an apartment in LA and everything. And I had to make sure, and it's just like the constant, like the grind of being a touring hired guy, Yeah. So then, so from there I was playing with Jeffree that whole year. And then around my birthday.
Were you touring or just playing LA?
Touring.
Just touring.
Full on touring. I toured with him in the UK, and then I did like 3 national tours with Jeffree. But yeah, like 5 years. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try to move to like the East Coast somewhere. This band, and then this is when MySpace was still happening. This band called the Bigger Lights hit me up, and they were like, "Hey man, like our friend Aaron from the band Matchbook Romance was like, hey, you should check out this Ryan guy. He's looking for a band." At that point, I was like, and I had like no money anymore at this point. Like I exhausted everything on So, so I was just like down. I was down in the hole, and so I was like, wow, I really want to keep playing music, but I was like, what the fuck am I gonna do, you know? And so this band hit me up. I like their music. They're cool guys. I flew out to Virginia to try out for them. They're like, well, you're in the band if you want. And so I was like, cool. I packed up my apartment, gave it up. My dad packed it up for me so I could go out and do it, but he packed it up for me and put everything in like a storage unit. And then I moved to Virginia, and I was couch surfing for 2 years.
Wow.
Out east. I had a girlfriend that lived in New York, and she was really supportive, and she was really great. And I guess you could say we're still friends. I don't know, but I really wish we could still be friends because she's really nice and cool and everything.
They all tell you we could still be friends.
No, but like she wasn't like the other ex girlfriends, you know, like but she's really cool. And so but I was like bouncing from like New York, Richmond to Alexandria. And it's funny because like my friend Matt, who's been sitting over here very patiently listening to my story, he used to live like in Virginia, and we actually had like some mutual friends, but I'll get to Matt in a second.
I went to college with us, a couple of guys from the Bigger Lights.
Yeah. So that's really funny, but we'll get to that whole thing in a minute. So so then I was like, all right, I'm gonna join this band, and then we toured for like, I don't know, like two years, like pretty much like just there was like a couple breaks here and there, but anytime I had like any sort of a break, I'd go visit my girlfriend in New York. And I would just take buses everywhere. I didn't have a car out.
Well, you don't need a car on these coasts.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
So I used the bus, metro, whatever, and so that was my life for 2 years. And then my buddy that works for the airlines was able to like help me out, like flying or anywhere I needed to go to. But after Bigger Lights started touring for like a while, we didn't make like any money like whatsoever, and we were crashing on like parents' couches and it's like, man, and this is where I was gonna have like a mental breakdown. Like, I'm 28 years old. Like, what am I doing now? You know, like I have like nothing, but I'm getting to play music, and that's really cool. And I accumulated like all this credit card debt.
Nice,
you know,
nice.
It was rad. It was so awesome. So yeah, so then I did that for a while, and then it just got to a point where like even the parents of like the Bigger Lights, because they were all like out there, was like our singer and then our guitar player. And I'm still super close with those guys too. Like, those guys are so supportive of me, and I'm really supportive of what they're doing. And it just got to a point where it just wasn't cohesive anymore. You know, like we exhausted like all of our favors and everything. And we were on like the worst record label in the world. It was called Doghouse.
Oh,
Records.
Come on, Get Up Kids were on that.
Oh, great bands, and that's what I thought. I was like, you know, this could be really cool. Like for all of us, we were like, dude, Doghouse is rad. They got like Get Up Kids, River City High, like like Gemini, you know, All American Rejects, yeah, Megan Diet, like, so we're thinking, you know, this could be like a really cool thing, and then like it just, like those guys just, I feel like the band signed at a time where.
Are they even around anymore, Doghouse?
Exactly, and that's really bad. It's not bad that you said that, but it's just like it just proves my point that like nobody like cares, or you know, it's just then they all decided like, oh well, we have this management company, like it's making a lot of money, let's just do that. You know, so then they forgot about like their Doghouse artists, and we're like, hello, you know. So, and we got a lot of good tours, and we had plenty of opportunities. It's just at the end, like something just didn't stick, you know. And it wasn't anybody's fault, but at that point, it was like, man, should I still be doing music? And this is what I thought to myself. I'm like, this is so crazy. Like I spent like years just going, like had like ups and downs, you know, highs and lows, like working dead end jobs to like being in a band where like I didn't, you know, nothing crazy happened. You know? Like, or not nothing crazy, but I didn't have to like work like, you know, normal 9 to 5. So at that time, I decided I was going to move back home to Salt Lake. We were talking on the phone earlier about it. I moved back to Salt Lake right around my birthday in 2010, and I was here until like March of 2011. But my friend, like I said, that works for the airlines, he's the greatest dude ever. But he was helping me out, like commuting to Virginia so I could still be in the band with those guys. So I still even tried to make it work, even though like their parents were like, no, we can't like do this, you know, anymore, like where you guys are just crashing at our house. So we decided this really isn't working out. I'm gonna have to come back here like maybe every other like couple weeks. And so we decided we were gonna make another record after our first one got released. So now we're on like record number like 2, and Doghouse wouldn't let us like get out of our contract for like a long time. We had to like get a whole like another manager for him to like negotiate with like them to just be like, yo, can you please just like drop these guys? Like
they owned you. They owned you.
Yeah, they weren't happy. Yeah. You know, where we weren't happy on the label. You know, and they weren't contributing anything at the time, and it just felt like we were just like annoying them more than anything. And so like our manager we had like a falling out with him, and then we had to get this other manager. It was just like a big disaster, and we were like, fuck, man, like, what are we gonna do? Then when I decided, I'm like, just flying every other week to Virginia to like go record or like to play like these little like one-off shows that were paying us a lot to get out of like debt, it started getting exhausting for everybody. And then I'm gonna rewind the tape a little bit, but like in 2010, when I was in the band, I was in the Bigger Lights for like a year already. I started getting phone calls from like a good friend of mine, but he was in prison, and his name is Ronnie Ragheat, and he was calling me, and he was like, dude. Whoops! I'm gonna knock this over. He's like, dude, I really want you to be in my band. And I was like, wow, this is like crazy. Like, how have you been? Like, we caught up and everything was like cool. Finally, when he got out of prison, like I got to try out for the band, but we were talking for like a year about just like everything, and he wasn't like sure when he was gonna get out, But then when he did, it was like, yo, man, why don't you like get on a plane and come out to LA, and we'll see how it goes, And so I did, and then because like Ronnie and I we were pretty close, man. Like on the Epitaph tour in like 2007, I Am Ghost got to share a bus with Escape the Fate, and so Ronnie and I really connected, and I think he remembered all the good times that we had, so that's why he thought of me. So I then decided, okay, this could be really cool, and I tried out for the band, and then he was able to like have me move back out to Los Angeles, and so we were roommates for like a short period of time. Yeah, and now we've been really busy, and I'm back on my feet. And
so how long have you been playing
with Falling in Reverse?
Yeah,
a little over a year and a half now. So we're almost on the 2-year mark. We've been working on new songs and everything. So hopefully I'll come out.
So would you go back and do everything all over again?
Oh, absolutely.
All the all that whole story.
Of course,
all
it's just crazy. It's just crazy to think. I mean,
breakups.
like the story I told you was a period of like 10 years.
Yeah.
Like. Maybe even longer. I don't know. I just gave you like a half of my life. I tried so hard to summarize it, and I hope I just.
No, you did
it's
a great
so hard.
job.
It's so hard to just like keep it all straight and everything, But but like I said, like hard work in any capacity pays
Where
off.
do you think you'd be without music? I mean, honestly.
A huge dork. Even more so than I am now.
I
mean, I honestly, dude, like I haven't changed at all. I'm the same guy.
Yeah.
Like that I've always been. I think the only thing that's a little different now is like people think that like I've like changed somehow just because like, the band has gotten all this like hype and momentum and like focus, and we're under this like microscope of like this like alternative press world. But no, it's great. It's everything I've ever worked for, and I've accomplished almost everything that I like set out that I wanted to do, but it was like, it definitely took like somebody like Ronnie to like notice who I was, and for him to like help, and he's been through his share of shit too, man. His life is fucking crazy, and like it's just amazing to me how like there's so much that has been going on and that is going on in his life to where he can still hold it all together, So it's somebody I really respect.
Well, when you have
crazy.
a passion for music, I think it shows.
No, but for sure. But it's just like how many times do you hear of like a dude going to like prison and then getting out and then just becoming like extremely successful? When people get out of prison, like it's hard for them to like.
Dr. Dre or something.
Well, no, but you know what I mean, man. Like it's like how often does that happen?
The whole system's designed almost just to keep you down and keep you.
Absolutely, yeah,
so.
Dude. When you go to jail and you come out, it's like your whole life is like it's crazy.
Yeah.
And for him, and he made it work, and like he's a guy that like when he says he's gonna do something, like he's gonna do it.
The music industry. You've been part of the. What do you?
Yeah.
What do you think needs to be changed about the music industry? If you don't, I mean, what is something you would change without getting? I mean, obviously.
No, I mean, I'm not gonna get in trouble for voicing my opinion, but it's like I feel like the music industry is in such like a desperate state right now that like there's a lot of. I'm very fortunate. I'm probably in like the 1% of like people who actually can say that they do this like for a living. You know what I mean? Like it's so hard. It is like the thing with music is like it could literally just within a snap of a finger be gone like tomorrow. Like I'm not gonna name any bands, but like it's just crazy to think there's some bands that you've probably liked growing up and you're like, well, where are they now? And like they may have only had
Flock
like
of Seagulls,
No, but I mean like think about like the shows like we went to growing up.
No, I got you.
Like,
the Stereo, for example.
Oh, I need to tell you something about the Stereo, by the way.
The band, you know.
Well, we'll get to them in a minute. I actually have to tell you something about them in this podcast.
Okay.
I feel like it's fine and it'll be appropriate. But I don't want to say the Stereo. I want to say any other band. But
well, part of it is people change a lot when they grow up.
Okay, but what I'm saying is there's bands like, I didn't want to say the Stereo. I'm trying to think of like a band that like, let's take a band like, God, I don't know, like Earth Crisis or something, right? Or like.
He's probably drinking
like
at a
Strife.
bar now.
No, well, no. God, I'm using a really bad example. I feel like whatever I say, I'm just gonna get heat for it. But anyway.
Anyways, okay, I get what you. Okay, I know.
Okay, let's look at I Am Ghost. Okay, perfect example.
Yeah, where are they now?
My old band.
Where are they now?
Okay, there are people that thought that they were gonna be doing this forever.
Yeah.
You know,
and
literally.
And now
forever.
they're working at 7-Eleven.
Or they work somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, and that could have been me, man. Like it still could be. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, you know? And it's just like, I'm so grateful for everything that's happened up to this point that if it ended tomorrow, like I would just be able to be like, yo, man, like I was able to do this, you know? I got to go to the UK twice. I got to tour all over Canada. I got to, you know, I toured the States. I've played so many of the same rooms like 50 billion fucking times. Like, you know, it's just, and then these are all memories I wouldn't trade in for tomorrow. Like, I just never know, like, what's going to happen. So, like, whenever I'm playing a show, I'm always like, well, you never know. Like this could be it. This could be my last time headlining this place, or this could be my last time doing this. You just never know. And I think that there's a lot of people who like forget eventually things end. You know, like it. Like for example, like this is so terrible and it's so hard for me to talk about like right now because it just is so fresh. But like our old tour manager, this guy Josh Stern, and he was a great friend of like a fuck ton of people. He got to die doing what he loved. He wouldn't change anything for anything. But it's just like you just never know when it's gonna end. He literally, like he died 2 days ago, and he got off a tour with Newfound Glory like 4 days ago. It's like you just never know like when it's gonna end. Whether it's like life or the career, anything. Like anything can go wrong. Like for example. Also, I just saw recently on the internet, as most things I see, that the singer from The Lost Prophets is in jail for like conspiracy to sleeping with somebody under the age of 13. That's never good. No matter whether he did it or he didn't do it, how do you recover from that? You know what I'm saying? Like it's the thing where like I said, you just don't know when anything could stop. It could boom. It could be gone. It could be taken away from you. So at these times, like. With the music industry, it's just like you got to be thankful for like what you do have, you know. And so I'm very, very fortunate where I am, and I'm so blessed and I'm so happy that like people like Ronnie have let me come into his life, and I get to like share this with him and like get to play these like big shows and do these really wonderful things. But the state of the music industry, where it could have been wrong. Sorry, I went off on that tangent
you're
again.
Fine. You're fine.
But what I think would be a little differently about something, I feel like labels are looking so hard for like that hard sell, and it has to be like now. Where back in the day, it was like labels would sign bands based on if it's like an investment, you know what I mean? But now it's just like they're looking for the quick, sell, and it's like we're living in like a singles world where, we got to get this single out now. It's not like we need to get this collection of songs, this record out. It's like this has to be the single or it's not going to work. And you're going to have like a million people telling you like, that's not it. But it's like you have to follow your heart and you have to like listen to what your fans say too. And I think that's the key to success, honestly. And you have to gauge what you're doing, because you always want to try to stay current, but at the same time, there's a lot of people in the music industry that I don't think know what the fuck they're doing because they've never been out like on a tour, or they've never been on the road and experienced things that like, maybe my friend Matt and I have experienced, or you, or Suzanne, I have experienced, because you guys have all like kind of been on the road at one point, like at least done like a tour. So
I've done my roadie tours with
Sure.
some bands.
Didn't you work with
Brothers Keeper?
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah.
Brothers Keeper.
Didn't one of those? I could be so misinformed, but didn't one of those guys like own or start Trustkill, or like didn't they have like some sort of involvement?
They were on Trustkill Records.
Nobody in that band ever.
No.
Man, that was a weird rumor I heard.
Josh, the guy's name was Josh, who did Trustkill Records. At least I believe his name was Josh.
Okay. And he does like Lumberjack and all that stuff. Like
possibly
okay.
From I don't know where, I haven't followed. They went on to do a band that had a bird on it. Put a bird on it. They're not even together anymore, though. A couple of those guys went on to another band. But anyways, that's a whole other story. Anything else? We'll kind of wrap it up here. I mean, I appreciate you. You know, you're in town for a few days, and you sit down with me and tell me your story.
I mean,
and
I just hope I didn't say anything that got me in trouble. But
no, I think you were safe. I think you're good. I think you're good. I appreciate kind of sharing from Salt Lake City to the mean streets of LA.
It's just crazy how I don't know, man. I mean, Salt Lake to me, it's just like I get that feeling in my heart when when I come home, I'm like, this is home to me. I don't know if my parents will always, I don't know if my parents will always live here or if if I'll move back or whatever. But I feel like when I come here, it's like there's something special about this place. Though it's like it's its own thing.
Salt Lake City is a beautiful city. I mean, it really is.
It almost feels like a fake city. Like when you look at downtown, you're like, this is it. Like this is the downtown. Because what is it, like 4 blocks or something? When I moved back home, I met whatever.
Sorry, we're not LA.
No, okay. So for people that aren't from Utah, that I'm sure. Okay.
New York, dude.
Yeah, I'm sure that.
What I like about Salt Lake is it's small enough, but yet big enough at the same time.
Yeah, I could see that.
I mean, a band, you have an opportunity to get big here if you want to. Mm-hmm. You're not going to, drown in a sea of I mean, I guess there's a lot of music, but
there is a lot of music.
It's small but big enough.
There's a lot of music, but I feel like if you wanted to make an impact, you could. Here. Yeah. It would take like a little bit of time, but you could definitely get something started from the ground up.
Well, even look at what Suzanne's done with her store.
Of course.
But anyways, we'll wrap it up here. Thank you very much.
The thing I love about you is I could talk to you all night, literally.
Yeah.
I didn't want this to end. But.
No, and I don't want to, wrap up. I don't want to type your whole evening. So I thank you very much.
You're not tying up shit, man. We gotta go. I'm sure we're gonna go bowling now or something after this.
Yeah.
We have so much to talk about still.
But. Well, what do you want to? Did you want to say something else? Did you want to include something else?
I just like.
I mean, who? I
was gonna say about my friend Matt.
Who deserves props of where you got to where you're at? I mean, your parents.
My parents, my friends, everybody from Salt Lake, for real. I know it sounds funny, but this is like the place where I could always come back to, and people accept me for me, and they know who I am, and they know what I'm about, and there's just a lot of people. I don't know. I feel like I don't want to say punk's dead, but it's like those are the people that supported me, and they're still kind of there. Yeah. I feel like punk has turned into something else now. It's not what it used to be. It's cool. There still is a community somewhere around here, and I feel like this is the place where I could come back and I would be accepted, and it'd be really awesome, to be here in some.
I'll tell you what, Salt Lake City would love to have you live there. Anyways, that's Matt.
You never know.
What you wanted to say about Matt?
I was gonna say I met Matt is really funny. I met Matt when I was in the down and out period of my life, later 2010, when I just realized Bigger Lights wasn't gonna work out. And I mean, I wanted to leave, and I wanted, and I wanted to do a project with Ronnie, and I wanted to not be, living on an airplane, flying from Virginia to Utah every 2 weeks. It wasn't a way to live, and just I feel like here, with Matt, I met him at a very interesting time in my life though, because he moved here for art. He had just moved here, and I met him through.
And where did you move from?
Virginia, right?
Yeah, I was living.
Oh, okay.
Which is crazy because I was living in Virginia, but I was crashing on people.
But you didn't
couches.
meet in Virginia.
No, we met here in Park City.
Okay.
And so
we never met from touring or anything.
No, and he had toured with a couple bands, and our friend, I haven't talked to him in a while, but
I called him the other day.
Yeah.
He's lost his. He's focused individual. He's in school, dude.
Perfect. But I met him because Puyan was like, yeah, I'm living in Park City now. I'm like, what? And I found that out through Twitter or something. And so then we met up, and he lived 4 miles away from, where my family was living. And so we decided to meet up. Matt was here, and he's like, I'm gonna do this thing. I have this goal with Obsessed Artists. And so I pretty much saw him launch that from the ground up, him moving here. And so he's another great person to have around in my life, but he understands the stresses of the road. But he saw me literally down and out, where I just had no money and
I remember you calling me. I was on tour with that nonprofit.
Yeah.
And you're like, dude, I don't know if I'm doing my time here, man. And I was like, bro, see where it goes, man. See what doors it opens.
Yeah, I mean, that was with Bigger Lights, but I just didn't know what was gonna happen. But then, somebody like Ronnie, who's been a friend of mine for years, just gave me such a great opportunity to try out, and here I am. Yeah, it's great. I'm living with my girlfriend in Los Angeles. We have an apartment together, and it's crazy how I feel I have my life back, It's great.
And you get to be part of that LA traffic again.
That's the only thing I hate about it. But you know what? I like the people, I like the weather. I like some people. People suck wherever you go, though. You know,
Yeah.
to some degree. I definitely like my ways there. I wish I could just live in two places at once. You know, that exists though. There's a place called Denver, and that place is rad.
Yeah.
You know, it's literally like the scenery. It's the scenery of Utah, but then it has like the nightlife of LA, and that to me is the perfect city.
Yeah.
So.
Colorado.
It's great there, man. I don't care. I know there's like some whatever. It's fine.
No, Colorado's good in my book now. Colorado's good in my book.
The rest of my band is living in Vegas. I can't live there, dude. I would live in Utah. I had this conversation with our bass player Ron. Falling Reverse they all live in Vegas. I can't.
That's crazy.
I can't do it. There's no way. I can't. They like it. It's really cheap there and it's great and whatever. But I mean, I like visiting there. It's awesome, you know. But I'm sure like those dudes in Vegas feel that same way about LA or Utah, you know. So it's whatever, to each his own, and that's how this world goes around, because everybody has their own opinions, you know. So
Cool.
I really appreciate you.
Thank you very much, and
here.
we'll wrap it up there. And
go see Matt's show if you live in Salt Lake.
yeah. Again, January 10th,
January
11th at the Metro.
It's called the Obsessed Artist Skull Candy Project.
What's your website?
ObsessedArtist.com.
ObsessedArtist.com.
Matt's a good friend, so make sure to support that if you live in Salt Lake and you are over the age of 21.
Yeah.
Because the venue is a bar.
But we don't have to say a private club for members.
No, you don't have to say that anymore. That's also great about Salt Lake. But
Oh,
cool.
man.
Thanks,
Anyways.
guys.
All right, that's going to do it for another episode of the I Am Salt Lake podcast. Thank you very much, Ryan Seaman, for jumping on and sharing your story, telling us your history kind of your drumming career in the different bands that you've had an opportunity to play in, and the impact of your drumming career here in Salt Lake City, Utah. So thank you very much. Again, I'm going to put his contact information at the episode 32 show notes at iamsaltlake.com. Feel free to hit those up, follow him on Twitter, and let him know that you heard him, like I said, on the I Am Salt Lake podcast. Get in touch with us, iamsaltlake@gmail.com. I'd love to bring you on the podcast if you're a local business, professional, a musician, a band, an author, somebody who's doing something really cool in the Salt Lake City area. Love to bring you on and share your story, have you kind of share and get you in the spotlight a little bit. So again, thank you very much for your continual support, you the listener, for the feedback I've gotten. Love to hear from you. Keep those emails coming in, keep those voicemails coming in. It's all on the contact me button at I Am Salt Lake. And until then, we'll be back on Wednesday with a brand new individual and somebody who is making Salt Lake City just a little bit better. You guys have a great night.